You said K and then case?
Yes. Everyone good? Alright. Framing argument at the top of the K, they've conceded that there is no fiat because they do nothing. There is seriously no explanation of the 1AR, the 2EC, or the 1AC of how reading this app in this debate is the key interlink to any of their impacts on mobilizing communities or using marijuana or using anxiety to legalize marijuana. You should let the 2AR explain how this round does that. There's no the no fiat argument was in the 2NC. There's no way that I don't have a 3NR to actually answer at this. Yeah, this is a framing argument that they've conceded that theory is the only thing that matters, which is what it means if we are proving there's a fundamental flaw in the theorization of the 1EC, then we should win regardless of solvency questions, because obviously the app doesn't get enacted in the real world regardless of the way that they define US, and the alternative doesn't get enacted in the real world. The only question is what theory you are grounding your decision upon, which is the reason why you should vote for the K. We are winning the root cause debate on the K. That specialism is the root cause of oppression. They don't have a very good answer to the best evidence, the DEC evidence, which makes the claim that moral distancing is only justified under speciesism. It makes the argument that literally every example of creating racial, cultural, or gendered others only happens in a world in which we have the ability to justify that moral distancing by putting people in the category of non-human, by putting the poor, yes, in the category of non-human, the gendered or the race others in that category. It's the only way that we, as long as we have the ability to correspondingly see them as more or less human or animalize them, the construction of things like race or gender are created. We are winning better explanatory power. This is also conceded for things like biopolitical control and anxiety, because we provided a better explanation for the root cause of violence, which is the terminal solvency takeout to the affirmative. Next argument, first argument they make is the permutation to both. There are a couple of I don't need that right here, so I don't know if I can. There are a couple of versions of the permutation fails. They don't have very good answers to. The both piece of row evidence makes the claim that speciesism has to be the center of analysis. Otherwise, things like diminishing returns, we go farther and farther away from the fundamental root cause of all of these issues, which means the movements that we create shifts our orientation of ethical thought to a point where it's no longer grounded in what is necessary. Second piece of evidence makes the argument that we reason from the inside out, or the cross-sex argument they don't have a very good answer to. That when we include the more privileged movements within that, those are the ones that are always prioritized, which the row evidence also bolsters. Next, they say the root cause is a wash false. We are absolutely winning at all of the arguments in the alternative debate are reasons why we are the best. Evidence fantastic. It says that capitalism didn't pioneer the reduction of living beings to things and exploitable resources. It just capitalized on the already created divisions between the human and the non-human. The alternative resolves that shortfall of traditional scholarship that sees capitalism as the root cause by incorporating the experience of non-humans, the way that we have shaped each other's history. That's explained also. We solve the root cause of anxiety because humans feel anxiety towards what they could not control. Literally build fences to protect themselves. That's the same logic of national defense anxiety. The app is talking about the state constructs threats in order to justify building walls, putting up fences. This logic all stems from the initial fear that humans felt toward the non-human. They say we can't actualize without the affirmative. They use the theory and the action. First of all, this is false. The 1AC is grounded in a mutually exclusive theory, which is the permutation, the link debate I'm going to get to in a second. Second of all, they have no action. It's a question of how we use debates, how we as debaters act post the education we receive in this round, which means if we have a better theorization, we should win. Next argument is affinity groups. First of all, don't do that. That was the case debate. Second, that was at the top about the case debate. Second of all, the case solves is better. The basis for action is uniquely key. That's the row perm evidence, which means the app links more to those fracturing arguments because there's no basis for the movement in a world in which they don't have the correct theorization. Next is the mobilization argument. They don't do that. That's no fiat argument. They also don't explain this. They self-interest in cross-sex is the reason why we create mobilization better, because people realize when those systems of oppression are intertwined, when they're affected by other ones, they have a self-interest to get involved and do that. They say we can't explain how capitalism is the root cause. Yes, we can. The fact that factory farms are tools of capitalism, tools instead of consumers. This is a key distinction. There's a reason that capitalism sees the non-human as a tool instead of a consumer. It's because of that category of the human versus the non-human. They say we have no explanatory powers. That was explained about. Yes, we solved the entirety. Yeah, that was explained about. The anxiety debate, as well as having a better linchpin to all of violence. They say capitalism structures our arguments. It's not well explained. It doesn't really make sense. The very evidence does flow negative. It says we have to acknowledge the connectivity
333.